Alright everybody, we're going to go ahead and set up our scrolling background now. We're going to do a nice space background that will go ahead and automatically scroll at the same rate that our player is flying forward. So, in order to do this, we've gone ahead and provided you guys with a space background image, Nebula Blue. I'm going to drop that in your sprites folder. Now we're actually going to go ahead and we're going to use a 3D object for this. And the reason for that is that this is a nice solution for scrolling backgrounds that you can use both in 2D and 3D. Now what you're going to do here is in the hierarchy, you're going to right click, you're going to do create 3D object, and you're going to add a plane. What we want to do is the center bar here, grab it and rotate it downward. Okay? And what that ultimately is going to do is over here in the inspector for the plane we've added, is set the rotation to -90. Okay. Let's go ahead and also zero out our transforms. Well, let's scroll back and let's select the plane still selected. Up here in the top left of your screen, select the rectangle tool. This will allow us to change the size. Let's go ahead and make this fit to be just slightly larger than our camera. You can pull in a little more if you want. That's fine. Then we're going to go ahead and you can leave the rectangle tool selected, or you can go back up here to the top left and select the move tool. Either way, with the plane still selected, go ahead and take your Nebula Blue and drag it from the sprites window and drop it on the plane. Now that will go ahead and convert the sprite image to a texture, and it will go ahead and apply it to the plane. Now, if we look at our game, it's going to be all black, and that's because we are using a 3D object, so we do have to now add a light source as well. So if you go ahead and right-click, light, and do a directional light. Okay. Now that's going to give you a light. It's going to be pointed at an angle. Okay. Since it's a 2D game, we can't rotate in 3D space to see it, but it is pointed at an angle downward. It's partially lighting the plane right now. If we were to look in the game mode now, you can see this kind of nebula space background. Yeah. Let's go ahead and in the hierarchy pane, let's drag the light and drop it on the plane. So now the light is parented to the plane. Wherever we move the plane, whatever we do with it, the light will stay with it. So if we run our game, right now we should have a static space background. They'll move around. Our enemies are still coming into view, so we're good. Now what we're going to do is go to your scripts folder, right click, create, add C# script, and we're going to call it background controller. And we're going to go ahead and add it to the plane. Nope, it's still compiling the script. Give it a second. Okay, looks like it's done. Drag it onto the plane. Let's make sure the plane has a copy of our background controller. Awesome, okay. Go ahead and open up the background controller script. Now, we're going to go ahead and need to access the renderer that is attached to our, not quite what I wanted, that is attached to the plane. And we're going to need to also access a vector2, and we're going to call this saved offset. Now this is what we're going to use to go ahead and do the math for the scrolling. Okay? We're going to do an offset so that the image actually scrolls on the plane. And then you can add this above or below. I like to put my public variables above my private. You're going to add a public float scroll speed. This is going to be similar to the speed that we have on things like the player and bullets. It's going to be the rate at which the background will move on the plane. Down here in the start method, first thing we need to do is we need to get access to the plane's renderer. This is very similar to when we're getting access to things like the rigid body component that's attached to the player. For this, we're getting access to the mesh renderer, the renderer that is attached to the plane. And then down here in Update, now we want the image to scroll top to bottom because the ship is flying top to bottom. So we're going to be doing this on the y-axis. We need to go ahead and use the built-in math functions. We're going to use the repeat function, and it's going to loop the value so that it just keeps going through from the maximum to 0 to the maximum to 0. And this is what we're going to use to get our background image to actually scroll at the rate we're giving it. Yeah? We need a vector 2. This is our current offset. Okay? This is how each update, this is how it's going to position on the y-axis the background image. And then we go ahead and assign to the renderer this change. Now the shared material is how you access the component or the function to be able to offset a texture on an object. Okay? You're not expected to know something like this. This comes more with learning about the 3D side of Unity. We call main text. Now main text is going to automatically default to using the main texture that has been assigned to the object. Again, this is something that is just built into the Unity code. It knows that main text, similar to when you reference camera.main, it's automatically looking for the first texture that is assigned to the renderer, which is attached to the object we're working with. Now, if we go ahead and save this, and then go back here to Unity, and with our plane selected in the inspector, you should now see for background controller scroll speed. Go ahead and set that to, we want -1. That's because we want it to go from top to bottom, because the ship is moving bottom to top through space. If you run your game, we are seeing a really weird stretching issue. So let's go ahead and select our nebula. I believe for this, we need to change the wrap mode from clamp to repeat. Yeah, so if you're seeing the stretching, go to the sprites folder, select the nebula blue sprite, and in the inspector, for wrap mode, change it from clamp to repeat. And then run your game. Again, yes, we'd like to apply the change that we made in the inspector. And there we go. Now we're seeing it. Now, if it seems like it's moving really fast, faster than you want, just select the plane again and change the speed to something like -0.25. If you run it again, there you go. And now you have a scrolling background.